everybody, it's Malia. I'm so excited to be back doing my second interview after taking a long break because my editor was not feeling well, but he is 100% better and up to par. So on we go. Today I'm interviewing someone that I don't know much about him, and uh, he's somebody that a lot of you know. You've seen him. You see him when he's on Beyond Kicking and Punching with Al. You've seen him when he did the Ultimate Warriors Cup virtual tournament. But, you know, a lot of people really didn't know too much about him. And, I asked Al, who's Sonny? And, those of you who know Al, blah, blah, blah. And so I said to Al, well, I hope you don't mind because there's a lot of people that have questions about him. And I don't know how to answer them because I really don't know the answers. And I don't want to say something that's wrong. So the best thing to do, I thought, was to interview him. And so that's exactly what I'm doing today. I can say his first name, but I certainly can't say his last name. So I'm going to introduce you to Sonny. Hi, Sonny.
Hi, Malia. Thank
How
you for
are
having
you?
me.
You are so welcome. Sonny, please pronounce your last name.
For sure. It's Pabuaya. And actually translated into English, it means the alligator or crocodile. That's what it means.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Which one are you?
I think I'm more of the alligator, fresh water, I guess.
Oh, that's cool. Well, Sonny, it is very true, as I said when I was introducing you, is that, a lot of people see you, they saw you every week. You were right alongside Al interviewing all of his guests, and people really didn't know a lot about you. And I thought, well, I wanted to know you better. And we have become friends and we chit chat and we talk.
Yes.
And I thought it would really be cool. First of all, it gives to people who have not watched Beyond Kicking and Punching with Sonny and Al. You should. It's a very good. He does some really great interviews with great people, and also those of you that perhaps entered or followed the Ultimate Warriors Cup championship tournament. You were going to talk about that because it was an amazing event. It had a lot of competitors. I was asked a lot of questions about it, even though I did judge part of the event. I didn't have the answers. So, Sonny, that's what you're going to do today. Question and answer. You're going to fill everybody with the answers they wanted to know. Okay, Sonny, well, it's strange to me that I know you weren't born in Canada, but that's where you live. Where were you born?
I was actually born in the Philippines, to be exact, at Punta Tansa, Cavite, Philippines, out in the province, about 2 hours away from Manila.
Oh, if you say Manila, then I can
Then you can
out.
kind of relate. Exactly.
Was it just a little village or was it?
Yes, it was sort of like a little town, you could say, a very little town. And now it's kind of grown to a bigger town. But to tell you the truth, I haven't been back for so long, I couldn't really tell you. I see pictures of it, but at the same time, I couldn't really tell you because I haven't been back for such a long time.
But do you remember if it was beautiful?
Yes, that I do remember. It was very beautiful. I can still remember when I did visit. My grandmother actually took us around. The same thing with my cousins and that. There was so many beautiful places. Well, it's like anywhere else in the world, right, Malia? I mean, you can find beauty in any place you go. You just have to be searching for beauty rather than, the poverty and all that.
Yeah.
In the Philippines, it's almost like Hawaii, you could say. You've got
so what your little
beautiful parts.
Were you on the water? Were you surrounded by water, the beach, the ocean?
Where I was born, we we were probably about an hour away from the ocean, but at the same time, like, I mean, you can still travel, right? Just like
Yeah,
everybody else. You know,
yeah.
you have that option, but it was tough back then. And that's why my parents moved to Canada, because there wasn't much opportunities in the Philippines.
Well, yeah, that's sad to say. Yeah, that was my next question is why in heaven's name from beautiful, warm Philippines would your mama and pop move to the total opposite temperature to Winnipeg? It's Winnipeg, Canada, right?
Yes, or some people would say winter peg because that's
Oh,
how cold it gets.
how did your parents even hear about this part of Canada, Winnipeg? I mean, of
I
all
bel
places in
yes.
Canada.
Well, I believe what was it back then? They were allowing a lot of people to immigrate to Canada for free, basically at that time. And so all we had to do was basically get my parents here, and that's what they did. Where they left me and my younger brother with my grandmother for a couple of years before they were able to settle in and make some income. And it was again a challenging time for them too, because my mother really didn't have any English behind her. So language was also a barrier, but she persevered. My mom is a true Filipino woman who, you know, is a true warrior because she survived all that harassment and, you know, uh, you name it. People used to just say whatever about her, but she still persevered to give me, my brother, and my sisters and cousins and my grandmother, you know, better living because of it.
Wow. Was your mother a good Filipino cook?
Oh, that she was, or
She,
she is, I should
well,
say.
she should have opened a Filipino restaurant in Winnipeg, something they didn't have.
Uh,
Yeah, and if you can
well,
cook.
yes, but at the same time, she wasn't an entrepreneur really,
Oh,
and
okay.
not having the education background was very
Yeah,
challenging for her.
yeah.
Like
That was so
she was
long ago. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, Sonny, how did you feel about having to leave the Philippines and your family, your friends, and move to Canada? How old were you again when you moved to Canada?
I was about 4 years old. So again, to me, I just wanted to be with my parents at that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, I mean, yes, I was gonna miss my grandmother as well as my cousins and relatives and friends, but being at such a young age, you know,
Yeah.
parents are, you know, especially when they're missed, you just want to go, right?
Right.
And that's how
Ari,
it was.
it was you and your brother who left the Philippines, and there was only two of you that came over
Yes,
from the Philippines.
yes.
And since you have been living in the Philippines, have any of the other family members moved to Canada?
Yes, actually, my mom, who, you know, like I said, she's a survivor. She's the one who actually helped quite a few family members move to Canada
Oh,
eventually.
really?
From my aunts and uncles to other cousins and that, and nieces and nephews. I mean, like I said, my mom is such a good woman. I mean, she just wants to help people, and I believe
Oh,
that's where I get it from, as well as my stepfather too, because he loves to just help. And sometimes I've told that to them, where, you know, your hearts are too big that sooner or later someone's gonna, you know, abuse it, and
no.
to it doesn't really matter if they do, because they know what they are doing, and they know, and they love what they're doing, and they love family, and that's what it's all about, right? Helping family and friends.
Yeah. So your mama and stepdaddy are still alive?
Yes, yes,
How
they are.
nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice. My mama and my dad died when I was very young, so I never really
Mhm.
had mama and papa. So I'm always excited when older people still have their mother and father because that is so, so special. So special.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Sonny. So now mama decided she missed her little. Did your mother call you Sonny? Or is that a
Actually,
nickname? That doesn't sound very Filipino.
well, actually, Sunny is my real name. It's my given birth name, but in the Philippines, they called me Jojo, which is quite funny because when it came down to it, I was kind of named after my stepfather. So how I learned about this was my aunt told me, hey, one day she took me aside and said, hey, did you know that you're kind of named after your stepfather? And I said, well, what are you talking about, Auntie? And she goes, yeah, well, your mom and dad didn't know what to call you. And so we kind of suggested you should name him Jojo because, you know, he's going to be a good looking boy, like that guy who works at the factory with us. And it's like, lo and behold, they end up getting married on the road. It's quite funny, actually.
Well, they were right because Jojo turned out to be a handsome Sonny.
Well,
Yes,
thank you.
very handsome
Thank
indeed.
you.
Now, Sonny, you're now in Canada. What did you
Yes.
think of the first time you saw snow?
What was it? I can actually still remember that because when we first came, it was just turning into winter. And so there was some snow, and it was like, it was a big shock. But at the same time, it's like, wow, what is this? But it's cold, it's like, it's cold, but what is this? And it's like, oh my gosh. And it was a shock, but as kids, you just learn to adapt. Well, kids are so resilient, right? I mean, they
Yes.
you just got to let them be, and you'd be surprised how they adapt naturally.
Yeah. I remember when Al moved from Hawaii. Now I have to say maybe I like to think he was in his 20s, but I'm not 100% sure. But I
Mhm.
do know that he thought California was freezing cold coming from Hawaii. And he was all the time cold, all the time needed warm clothes. How do you people live in this cold? I said, it's not cold. But to him, leaving Hawaii and coming to California, that for him was a drastic move temperature wise. So, of course, as you say, you were a little boy, it didn't bother you. But
Yes.
I'm sure when your mother and father moved, they had to adjust to that climate. It was hard for them. But
Yes.
okay, Tanya, well, tell me, what did you think of going to school in Canada? You didn't speak English.
No, it was quite tough and challenging, and that's why I believe I ended up failing second grade. Because actually, was it second or third grade? I'm losing track now. It was my third grade because when I first came to Canada, I ended up not going to school first, and then eventually I went to school, and since of my age, I went straight to grade two. And it was like a big shock, not going to school at all ever in your life, not knowing English. Now you're here in grade two learning English. So it was a big shock. So that's why, yes, I passed grade two, but grade three, I ended up failing, which is okay because in the long run, it made me better.
Yeah,
And I made more friends, but at the same time, I am who I am. And, you know,
cool.
you fail, you go on.
Oh, absolutely. There's no such thing as failing. You can do it again. How long did it take you to be able to manage conversation speaking English?
Oh boy, I guess being immersed in anything, you kind of just really have to learn real quick, right? I mean, I'm sure it took me at least a year to,
Yeah.
you know, really understand it, but at the same time, it was still broken English for me. But I was able to understand it and still continue on.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
can
it.
identify, Mark and Craig could surely identify
Yes.
with what you're saying, because here they come, leave California, or Colorado,
Mhm.
wherever we were,
Yep.
and move to Germany. And they thought they were going to go to English speaking school, and I put them in German school.
Mhm.
They couldn't speak one word. All they did was, why do we have to go? We don't know what they're saying. It took them 6 months to even have a little bit of an understanding. So I can
Yeah.
surely identify with how you're feeling
Yeah.
when you're just little and lost. And it's a frustrating feeling for you. And parents hate to see their children have to go through this. What did
Yeah.
you think of the school system? Did you participate in sports? Did you learn to play hockey? Did you ice skate, snow ski? What did you
Um,
do?
I tried every sport I could actually, and hockey was one of those sports that I couldn't really get into because I was able to skate, but you give me a stick in my hand, my skating was off, right? In a sense, it threw me off balance. When people tell me, well, a hockey stick should balance you out, but for me, it was the complete opposite. So I didn't really get into hockey. I got into other sports from basketball, volleyball, and then eventually football and whatever else I can muster up.
Well, as you matured and got older, and now you go into high school, did you go out and enjoy the beauty? There's so many trails, and I mean, the scenery in Canada is just breathtaking, just
Yeah.
breathtaking. Did you camping, hiking, kayaking, ice
Yeah.
fishing? Did you learn any of that stuff?
Yeah, we actually, yes, we did. I mean, we did it when we were younger too, with my parents, with my mom and my stepfather. It was actually quite nice because every weekend we try to do something different, from uh, fishing to I guess picnics, you name it. They just wanted to try different things. But as I got older, even by the time I was in my junior high, I was doing a lot of things on my own or with friends, especially by the
Cool.
time I was driving when I was 16. We used to just drive out and do different things on our own.
How old were you in Canada when you learned to drive? Is there an age limit
Uh,
there?
yes, it'll vary depending on which province you're at. In our province, you have to be 16 to get your license.
And so you got your license early. Yeah, 16.
Yes, yeah,
Cool.
yes, I did.
Ah, okay, Sonny. Well, I know because I asked that you're in martial arts, and a lot of people don't know that. I didn't know. Do I? I know you. How did you get into martial arts? Why did you get into martial arts?
It's actually a funny story too, because, to begin with, I really didn't want to get into martial arts in a sense. Maybe a little bit, but not really. I really wanted to get into ballet at that time when I was young.
That's
And
amazing.
my mom,
Ballet.
oh yeah, ballet. I love watching it, watching how graceful people can be, especially the men, and how high they
Oh
can
yeah,
jump, and
yeah.
how flexible and everything that they do. It's just amazing.
I
And the
agree.
twist and turn and the strength that they have is incredible, right? To
Yeah,
lift those women up and down
yeah,
one hand, and that it was like, wow, right?
yeah. It's
But
beautiful. I
my mom,
know.
yeah, but my mom didn't want anything to do with that. So when I asked her to join a ballet school, she said, no son of mine's doing that. 2 weeks, I think 2 weeks later, she signed me up into a martial arts school with my younger brother who was already taking martial arts. Said, you're taking this. That's it. I signed you up for 3 months. If you like it, You stay. If you don't like it, we'll talk. And then I go, can I take ballet after? No, we'll talk after. It's like,
well,
okay.
what style did she sign you up to? Did she even know what she was signing you up to?
She just knew it was martial arts. It was actually Taekwondo that I first started. It was my roots, or my first art was Taekwondo. And I was actually lucky and blessed that my first instructor was a very good man, Mr. Don Hart, who was under Grandmaster Ann Lee at that time. And he was very passionate and very, I guess, how can I call it? He loved kids. He loved helping develop kids. And that's who he worked with a lot. And he didn't have that old school mentality where only the strong will survive. Instead, his mentality was, we're all strong, but we all develop at different rate. It's just a matter of learning how to bring it out of each student. And that's the philosophy that I have adapted to, is where I believe that all people, all students are strong. It's just a matter of how can I help them bring it out of them? And that's what I do.
Well, you know, at least getting into Taekwondo, you were able to learn how to do those lifts and fancy kicks and jump high, because Taekwondo is all of that. And
yes, exactly.
how long did you always stay in Taekwondo? How long were you in Taekwondo? Did you always stay with this instructor?
Well, yes, I'm still in Taekwondo. I'm still in all the arts that I study. I mean, I did stay in Taekwondo for a long time because I was competing from local tournaments to national and international level. And so that's what kept me going, which in the long run helped me, I guess, get introduced to other instructors. Like eventually my next instructor, Grandmaster Emily, because Don Hart, who was my very first instructor, actually retired and moved to another city with his wife. So I trained with Grandmaster Emily, and then from there, he said, I want you to learn more. So he introduced me to other instructors, and then in the long run, they introduced me to other instructors, which is—
That's very good. You know, some instructors don't want their students to learn from other instructors.
Yes.
And that is so wrong. So you really had a great instructor who pushed you to learn from others. Now, how old were you when you started going into competition? Did you know anything about competition? Was it something you had seen and wanted to do?
That's a good question. My very first competition was, oh boy, that was a long time ago, and I was excited, but at the same time nervous, because back then they didn't really have too many divisions. They didn't have, too many people competing. And so in the long run, you might end up fighting a girl. And lo and behold, my second match was a female, and I did not know what to do. It's like, do I go all out? Do I take it easy? What am I supposed to do? And
if she's there, you fight her like anybody else.
I did in the long run, because at first I took it easy. I can still remember it quite clear. I took it easy, and then from there she gave me a swift kick, because in the Taekwondo competition, it's full contact, right? You can knock out the person if you can, even at a young age, right? And so she tried knocking me out, and I said,
wait a minute, I'm not gonna have this.
The gloves are off. And that's where I had to hit her a couple of times and made sure I won. That was it. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And I give her credit. I mean, she took everything I got, which was wow.
That's why she's in the art, and that's why she's in the tournament, because she
Yeah.
knew possibly I
Hmm.
have to fight a guy. Now,
Yep.
how old were you and what rank were you when you started competing?
Oh boy, I would have been, I guess, 10,
Oh, you were
10
just a
years.
little guy.
I was just a little guy and I was just like a yellow belt, maybe, I think it was, or yellow stripe or something. It was, it, I was young and, I, I learned that from my very first competition, I actually enjoyed it and I loved the thrill of it. And so I actually worked that much harder on it. And then in the long run, it was quite interesting because by the time I was halfway to our belt level, say from white to black, you got your halfway mark, which was about a green belt for Taekwondo. And my instructor wanted me to be challenged a little bit more. And that was actually the very first time I went into black belt division.
Now, how old are you? Now you're going
At
into
that
class.
time,
Yeah.
when I fought my very first black belt division, I guess I would have been 12, 11, 12.
Still yet a little baby.
Yeah. And again, back then, right? Back then, it wasn't, you didn't have too many division, too many black belt kids. So you end up fighting older people in the long
Yeah.
run.
How many years of you 10, 12? How far along did you go age-wise before you stopped competing? And did you compete in forms, weapon and fighting, or only fighting?
I did forms as well as fighting. I didn't really do too much weapons. Um, if anything, I learned how to do weapons, but I didn't compete in weapons. I only did forms and fighting, mostly fighting to tell you the truth, but I did love forms because when it came to forms, again, it was like ballet, right? And then being able to be very graceful. But the best part about forms is the actual interpretation of the forms on the meaning of why you do the things you do. So in the long run, it's real self-defense.
That's true. That's very true. You know, Sonny, do you have a, a competition tournament in fighting and form that was your favorite win?
Oh boy. I guess my most favorite win would have been my first national competition where I was only 15 and you had to be 16 to compete at the national. So my instructor kind of just said, oh, if you win, you're going to be 16 by the time you go to world championship. So you'll be legal. So it's all good. Don't worry about it. And I got all the way up to the semifinals, right? And was it semifinals? Yes, it was a semifinals. And, that's where I had to fight a guy who was in his mid-20s, who's been national champion for like 10 years running. So it's like, oh my gosh, what do you do? Yeah. And I went toe to toe with him, toe to toe. And and he will remember that fight forever because I've talked to him before, after, and he says, if you keep this up, you're going to be national champion someday. And because I haven't had a hard fight like that before, because, being at a young age too. And then also with that match, the fight prior was filmed by World Wildest Sports. So they actually caught me doing my kick where I faked with a round kick and then brought it around and did an inside out crescent kick and knocked the guy's head off.
Do you have footage of that?
to tell you the truth, the VHS or Betamax that I had at that time, disintegrated because in
Oh,
time, and I can't find it anywhere. I wish I could, because that was one of my favorite. And I know for a fact that it's still to this day, the ones who are future champions later on in Taekwondo at nationals say that, that kick itself inspired me to be better. And so in a
awesome.
sense, that touched me every time.
Oh, that's exciting. I like to hear that. Now, Sonny, you're in Taekwondo. Now what degree are you? Eventually you got your black
Well,
belt.
yes, I have my black belt. Officially, I have my sixth degree WTF black belt. Unofficially, I have my seventh through one of my other grandmasters. But again, politics and all that. So to tell you the truth, I don't even worry about the
No,
degrees or anything like that. I just love to learn and
I mean,
train.
yeah, look at me. I was
Yeah,
just a white
ex-
belt.
exactly. That's
The
that's
white
all I
belt
am.
master. That doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
that's
It
exactly
does not
right. I
matter.
don't worry about it.
No, I don't worry about anything. How many years have you actually been in martial arts?
Oh boy, over 45 years. It's been a while, I guess. It's over
Wow.
40. How's that?
Wow. And okay, now when I know you have your own school,
Yes.
um, was that something you planned, or did it just kind of fall in place, or did you want a school? I mean, how did all that happen?
It actually, again, it was planned, but it kind of went ahead of plan, because what ended up happening was after I graduated high school, I wanted to go into either chiropractic school or to medicine or engineering. But again, my parents didn't have funding. I didn't have funding. So I
Oh,
decided, you know, go to school for a year, and then from there, we'll take it from there, right? And so I started working as a butcher, actually, at a meat plant. And I was making money. I was saving up money, which was great. And then all of a sudden, probably about just when that year was about to end, I saw this building that was in the middle of nowhere, you could say, right? And I'm looking at it, for sale, for lease. I'm going, wow. All of a sudden in my head, it was, oh my gosh, that's my school. And I didn't have it planned. I did have it planned like in about 2 to 4 years prior to when I got that thing. And then it's like, okay, what's the odd? So I called up the number for lease. I got my friend who's a real estate agent to look into it. He said, I can get you a real good deal for it. If you want it, you tell me. And all of a sudden, one thing led to another. And next thing you know, I'm opening a school up.
wow. So were you able to buy the building, or did you just lease it?
I leased the building. Yes, I just leased it at that time. And then I had to do major renovations inside because there was like
Yeah.
19 rooms in there. It was actually a lot of fun doing the
Wow.
renovation with my dad, as well as my cousins and stuff, where we were knocking walls by kicking and punching it and using a hammer. So it was quite fun trying to knock it over with our
I-
arms.
Is that the same school that you're in today?
Actually, no, it isn't. I was in my very first location for about 19 and a half, almost 20 years. And
Wow.
so what ended up happening was the landlord wanted to either sell it or knock it down, one or the other. I looked into buying it, but the problem was there was just too many red tapes to go through to get the loan and everything else.
Mhm.
So lo and behold, another location, which was about maybe a minute or two away from that location, opened up, and I decided just to move. And so now we're in this new school for about 6 years now.
Now, has your school always been called, what is the name of your school again?
Iron Fist Martial Arts.
Have you always, when did
Called it.
that name come into play? Was that what you opened up under?
Yes, actually, I bought that name out from my original instructor, my very
Oh,
first instructor where I first started. His school was named Iron Fist,
I
and we
see.
were under Amli Taekwondo at the same time. And since he was retiring, I decided to keep the name because I love the name. I
It's a good
mean,
name.
I
Yeah,
believe it's a good name, and that's why when the .com started out, I had a good friend who bought the name ironfist.com for us. So now I at least have a good domain name too as well.
that's cool. Now, Sonny, I remember reading somewhere that you actually have been able to travel the world. Now, were
Yes.
you traveling the world to compete, to train? What reasons were you traveling the world, and where did you go?
Okay. Actually, a little bit of both. A little bit of both. I got to. Oh, so this is my youngest son. This is Grayson. He loves
There's
to
the,
do his cameo because eventually he wants to be a YouTuber himself too, which we're going to work on.
oh, well,
Yes.
that's very good.
Okay, but I gotta finish this.
I
Okay,
know.
bud?
I'm sorry about that scream if you heard
Okay,
it.
it's okay, no problem. Thanks, buddy.
How cute.
It's all about family,
That's right.
Sometimes,
He's
especially
telling
with
me
your
to hurry
kids.
up. I want my
Yep,
daddy.
yep, exactly. So, like I was saying, I was lucky enough and blessed to be able to travel for competition as well as for teaching and training. You know, and with martial arts, it had more opportunities given to me than any other thing. And I believe it's available for anyone who wants it too as well,
Right.
because it's just a matter of finding a way of how to do it rather than finding the problem. So always looking for solution rather than the problem. And
Exactly.
that's what I did.
Exactly.
Because back then, right, you didn't have all this internet where you can do video calling and with your instructor, which I do right now with Sifu Al.
Right.
Back then, I had to travel and see Sifu Al. I had to
So did
travel
I.
to see my karate instructor. I
Yeah.
had to travel to do all that to either train or teach classes.
Yeah.
But now with technology, we're a lot closer than we can ever imagine.
Yeah. Well, Sonny, we know that you have children.
Yes.
When along your path did you, how did you meet your wife? How long have you been married? Is she involved in the arts? How many
Yes.
children do you have?
Well, let's start off with, we have 4 kids,
4?
3 daughters and 1 son. Our 2 oldest, who's 23 and 20 right now, they're actually from my wife's first marriage. Okay, and then the other 2, which is 10, Trinity, and Grayson, who's 7, who you just met. So we have 4 kids, and me and my wife have been married now for 13 years, to be exact.
Wow.
We were married on 2008 in Hawaii, actually. Yeah.
Is she Canadian or is she from
Yes.
the States?
Nope, she's Canadian. It's actually quite funny story on how I ended up meeting my wife. Again, I have nothing but funny stories really to tell you the truth in my life, which makes life that much interesting, right?
Yes.
It was quite funny because I wasn't even supposed to be where she was at, because at that time, what ended up happening was I was actually in Hawaii training with Sifu Al. And so I was training and training. I was supposed to stay there for at least another week and a half, 2 weeks. I get a phone call from my parents, from my mom to be specific. You got to come home and help me out with something. And it's like, oh, okay, great. All right. So I guess I got to cut my trip short. So I went home. It only took me like, I don't know, I think a couple hours to do what had to be done. And then next thing you know, what am I going to do now? The weekend's coming. I get one of the parents who didn't go to the tournament as well, says, "Hey, Sonny, I know you're in the city now. Can we, me and you, will drive to Yorkton, which is another town or city in Canada, right? We'll drive and surprise the student at the tournament and you can coach them." I said, "Oh, that's a great idea." So we left Friday night to drive all night to get to Yorkton, which is about five-hour drive, which is easy, right? So we get to the city and we're going, "Oh man, it's so early. I need coffee." So we hit a Tim Hortons, which is like a Starbucks to you guys, right? And we hit the Tim Hortons. We go in line, and you got these 3 people ahead of us, which was my wife, her friend, and another friend. There's 2 friends. And I hear them chit-chatting. They're going, "Tournament, tournament." And then I'm going, my keen ears go, "Tournament? Oh, I guess they're going to the tournament." So, I just wanted to introduce myself. All I said was, "Excuse me, are you guys going to the tournament?" And she looks at me and goes, "Who are you and why are you talking to me?" kind of look, right?
Yeah.
And I go, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Master SONNY PAYUBA," because, that's my title in Taekwondo. And she goes, "Yeah, okay, nice to meet you." And just turns around,
Ignored you.
ignores me, thinks like I'm full of it. So she leaves. We get our order. We go to the tournament, and then from there, she sees me, just goes like this and like, "Yeah, whatever." And so next thing you know, when the tournament starts up, all the masters and grandmasters and instructors sit at the head table at the front. And she's looking at all the front, doesn't see me. She turns around, looks at the stands where parents sit down and everything, and looks and goes, "Yeah, I thought so," kind of look. It's like, oh my gosh.
Full of bull.
Full of baloney, right? So arrogant, right? And then they're introducing all the masters and grandmasters and instructors. And the host goes, "And we have one more master who's not sitting at the front here. And the only reason why is he's such a good guy. He likes to make sure his parents, his kids, his students are well taken care of. Master SONNY PAYUBA, can you please stand up and bow to everybody?" So I stood up. She turns around and looks and goes, "Oh my God."
Oh, I love it.
And she avoided me for the whole day. The whole day.
Embarrassed.
And it was like,
I love it.
embarrassed. And then at the end of the tournament, what ended up happening was there was a gathering of all the competitor students who wanted to, do the dinner thing. And we did the dinner. And guess what? I got to sit beside her. And she's like, "Oh my God." And we got to sit together, and it was like, I guess it was meant to be, the universe.
Okay, well, before you go any
strange
further,
way.
her reason to be at the tournament, was she a competitor?
Yes, she was competing. She was fighting and doing forms competition.
Awesome.
Yeah, she was competing, and so that's why she was there. And so, she did okay. And then next thing you know, she at the end of the tournament, we ended up sitting, having dinner. We ended up chit-chatting. And then next thing you know, we gave everybody else a ride to the hotel, and we ended up going back to Tim Hortons and stayed up all night chit-chatting till the morning, until like, oh geez, I gotta leave. I gotta get the students back home and everything. And she says, "Okay." And so next thing you know, I just told her, "Okay, don't worry. I know where you're going to be on this day. I will see you there." And she just goes, "Oh yeah, okay, whatever." She didn't believe me until that day. I went to see her, got my hair cut from her because she was a hairstylist at that time, and then took her out for our very first date to dim sum. I took her out for dim sum because she's never been. And then after that, it was ancient history, and here we are.
Was it love at first sight?
Was it love at first sight? To tell you the truth, I don't think so. But at the same time, I knew there was a connection and there was something there. And, you know, but it blossomed into, yeah.
Oh, cool. Has she always lived in Winnipeg?
She has actually, and we've never
Really?
really met. And the funniest part was when she decided to introduce me to her grandmother, right? For the very first time at a party. And we walked to the door, her grandmother opens the door, and before she can say, Oma, this is Sonny, she goes, oh, Sonny, I haven't seen you for so long. She gives me a hug and kiss. And I'm going, Oma. And it's like, she goes, you know my Oma, my grand? I says, yeah, I went to school with her daughter and I taught her daughter in high school. And she's going, you taught my auntie? And it's like, you're that little girl who came and visited that one day with blondish hair, because there's a 7-year difference between me and my wife. So
Is your wife home right now? Is your wife at home?
Is she home? She
Bring her.
is
Introduce
home.
her.
But I know she's gonna be shy on the camera.
Oh,
so.
tell her to get her butt over here. No martial artist is shy.
Okay, let me. Okay, let me go get her right.
Yeah, go get her.
Give me a second. Now.